Awesome. Hello and welcome, everybody. We're going to get started here shortly. I just want to give everyone a chance to join in, maybe a couple of the stragglers or, grabbing their coffee. But while we wait, I want to pose a question to the audience. It's nothing serious. It's just something fun to get us started. And we'll go ahead and launch that quick poll. And my question is, what is your morning drink of choice? And the reason why I ask this is for the past, pretty much this summer, my coffee maker broke, and I used that as an excuse to try to wean myself off of caffeine. And since then, I have fallen off the wagon, and I'm right back on the coffee machine. But I always thought that was kind of interesting. Is like, what do people drink, to get their day started? Do you start with a glass of water, some tea maybe, or are you a coffee? If you like coffee, like, are you a creamer type of person, or do you just like to drink it straight? I just think that's something that's kind of interesting is how, people start their days. I wonder if there's a trend among people looking to improve their Google business profiles and see what, maybe we're all just caffeine freaks or if we're all hydrators.
I would have to bet we're all caffeine freaks.
Yeah, I would probably assume the same. I think I lasted 2.5 weeks of no coffee before I was about to just pull my hair out. All righty, let's see what we got for the results.
We definitely have a lot of coffee machines here.
All right, let's see what we got for the results. Yeah, and you're right, Ben. We are caffeine freaks. We've got 56% of coffee drinkers here. Tea is with 16% and 28% with water. I think that's probably the best, is just to hydrate, and that was the H2O is what we're meant for. Nobody clicked other. To be honest, when I made the poll, I wasn't sure what other could be. I didn't know, so I figured I'd just provide it and see if there was a matcha or maybe a kombucha person here in the middle in the mornings. But let's go ahead and get started. And so let's go to the next slide here. Awesome. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. This is a special discussion because this is the very first installment of our Local Search Expert Series, How to Get More from Your Google Business Profile. I am your host and digital marketing evangelist, Justin Meredith, and I am thrilled about today's topic. We have some awesome tips that are going to be actionable, and this is going to be, something that you can put in action right now, and this is going to be for all of you today. But before I bring in our guest speakers, I want to go over a couple of housekeeping things. So first off, if you've attended one of our webinars before, you might notice that this layout is very different. So this is the first time we're using our new webinar tool. It's got a bunch of bells and whistles that we're excited to use. So now, if you're looking at the dashboard, you should see me, Ben, and Steve in the top left of your screen. So hi, that's where our media player is. Below us is the Q&A box, and that's where you can submit your questions to be answered by Ben and Steve here. Please submit your questions. So the way that we're going to do this webinar is a majority of it will be a Q&A. We want to provide as much value to you, the viewer, and so we felt like the best way to do that was for you to have your questions answered. And so we're going to go over some tips and best practices for how to get the most out of your Google Business Profile, but we also want to make sure that we have enough time for everybody here to really learn something and maybe get a problem or a question that they've had answered. And so below us is the Q&A box. There's also an attendee chat. So if you have your own suggestions or maybe a story that you've experienced when it comes to SEO or Google Business Profiles that maybe you think could help someone else, or just a comment or something funny, feel free to drop that in the attendee chat. If you have a question, make sure to put it in the Q&A. That'll make it easier for us to keep track of all the questions that are coming in. But please remember to ask questions. This is what we're here for. We want to provide as much value to you guys. And over to the right of the attendee chat is the request demo button. So if you click on that, you can see a free demo of Birdeye in action. And you can see all the amazing tools and functions that we're able to do and help businesses really take a better stance and a stronger grip of their online presence and their online reputation. Above the demo button is our slides. So that's where you'll be able to see the slides. It's pretty self-explanatory. To the right of that, you can see speaker bios. So you can learn a little bit more about Ben and Steve here and connect with them on LinkedIn, which I highly encourage you to do. They've got some great content out there. And then below that is our related content. So be sure to check out our next webinar that's coming up in August. Steve will actually be joining us for that as well. And that is part 1 of our Reviews to Revenue Masterclass series. It's going to be a 4-part series with next month starting part 1. And we'll be talking about how using feedback to grow your business. How can you turn reviews into a marketing generator or a revenue generator? How can you make them work for you? And we're going to be joined by Steve and a panel of industry experts, some really talented marketers who have brought in a ton of reviews and have some awesome experience of what it means to have a strong online presence and how that can affect the business. Below that, there is an on-demand webinar that actually Steve was on with me before, and that is how to outrank your competition on Google. That is awesome if you're looking for more SEO type stuff, if you're looking to see how you can take that next step and show up not only closer to the top on Google, but make sure that you're on the first page, because we all know how important that is, because nobody really seems to ever go to the second page of Google. And so also be sure to follow us on LinkedIn. We have live streams that Ben joined me on yesterday, and we talked for about 20 minutes about some stuff that we'll cover here, and then we also covered a couple of other things as well. We do live streams all the time. We post some really good content. It's not just a bunch of commercials for Birdeye, but there's actually some really valuable information there. So be sure to give us a follow and check that out. Now, moving on, I'd like to introduce our guests, and it's my pleasure to introduce today's speakers. And first up, we have Ben Fisher. This is Ben's first time joining us, and we're thrilled to have him because he was picked by Google to be a diamond level product expert. He's been helping businesses grow their online presence since 1994 and is a frequent contributor to the Business Profile Forum. And he's also the co-founder of Steady Demand, a local SEO and social media company. His team at Steady Demand specializes in helping clients fight map spam, navigate the most complex business profile issues, and troubleshoot ranking issues on Google. Next up, as I mentioned before, one of our recurring guests and an absolute rock star in the SEO space is Steve Wiideman. Steve is no stranger to the Birdeye universe. He's helped countless businesses with their Google search related questions, and he's also the CEO and senior search strategist at Wiideman Consulting. He's also an adjunct professor at UCSD and is the author of SEO Strategy and Skills. Steve and Ben, thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thank you, hey, Ben. I think Justin almost called you a freaking awesome product expert there. Did you catch that? He was going to say that. I caught it. And I have to agree, Ben. We've worked together for a while, and I've seen what you can do. So I'd have to agree with that one.
So I wouldn't be here if you didn't invite me, Steve. So I'm sorry. You are the rock star, my friend.
That's the thing. That's why we're doing this webinar, and we want to do it this way with the Q&A, is because it's not common. We have so much expertise in one place for one discussion.
That's a lot of nerdiness.
There's a lot of nerdiness for sure. Ben, can you touch and give us an idea of what a diamond level Google product expert is? We touched on it in the live stream, but for those who didn't join us for that.
All right. So what I'm going to do, dude, is I'm going to go with the numbers, because you were surprised when you heard the numbers, right? Yeah. So, okay. So almost every product that Google has a product expert group, which basically helps the community and also helps improve the product. And there are multiple levels. There is the bronze level, which basically is you're just getting started. You're not under NDA or anything like that with Google. Then you move up into the silver level. And once you're in the silver level, you get a little bit more of a sneak peek behind the curtain, but you're, again, not under NDA. So it's just kind of a little bit more of an advanced level. You're a little bit closer.
And you're talking about responding to and helping folks in a forum format somewhere, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And then you have the gold level, which is where you're definitely under NDA with Google, and it goes to platinum, and then basically it goes up to diamond. And the levels are determined by your activity, like how often you're helping people, like how much you interact with Google themselves and help improve the features in the product, and mentoring, and as well as, doing things like this, which is just, getting out there and talking about the product or helping people. And so with the diamond level, just to go over the numbers real quick, so there are over 2,500 product experts across all Google products currently, I believe. And for Google Business Profile, there are 40 in the world. And from a diamond level, there are only 2 of us in the United States and Canada. And so basically, really what that means is that we have direct access, or I have direct access to people over at Google, interact with them every single day. And we also meet with them every single week on Fridays, actually, at 8 o'clock in the morning. Yay. But the beautiful part about it is that we get to really impact the product. We get to help out people. That's probably the most important thing. And, a great example of this, and we're going to discuss this today a little bit, is like these review attacks that are happening right now. The product experts, since we're on the ground, we get to see this stuff before anybody really knows that it's a problem. And once we spot the pattern, we tell people over at Google, and they get to start working on it immediately. So it feels really good to be able to have that kind of impact. And also, I mean, honestly, that level of access. We get to see things like 6 months to a year out sometimes.
Yeah, those extortion emails, I can't wait to talk about that. It's been driving a lot of small businesses crazy, and it's not fair. You work really hard to try to have, your business do all the right things, and someone comes in and says, "Hey, I'm gonna basically leave a bunch of 1-star reviews, and you're gonna disappear from Google search results, and but if you pay me via this gift card or whatever, I won't leave those reviews." And it's just sad that it's even happening and whatever. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, and also too, it's like once you pay them that $75, they're not going away.
No, now that they know you're going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Justin,
and that's something we touched on in the live stream yesterday, and we'll dive into it here in a second. But Steve, you just mentioned like you have these companies that do all the right things, and even then they still can get taken advantage of. But for the ones that do the right things, what does that look like? So when you guys are looking at, when you're meeting with the business and they're showing you their Google Business Profile specifically, what is it that you look for in a good Google Business Profile, and what are the components that make you go, okay, these guys actually know what they're doing and they're doing it well?
Sure.
So what are kind of like the components of that make a strong or a rock solid Google Business Profile?
I think you've nailed it in terms of that being a priority. Obviously, Google Maps is going to be where people are searching to find businesses using non-brand name queries like breakfast near me, etc. I think there's 2 parts. Part 1 is really having an answer to why, when you go through all these different fields and options that are available, why did you choose that? Why did you select this category? Why did you put those words into that description field? And I think that comes with research. And there's a lot of free tools out there. Some are paid tools that you could look at to really study the top ranking results for the categories that you'd like to appear for in Google Maps. So I think taking the time to really sort of pick apart what's working for the top competitors and create sort of an aggregate plan of, hey, based on the pattern that we see of the top ranking businesses in this particular category, maybe it's family restaurants, maybe it's bar and grill, whatever it happens to be, and then driving the fields, the data that you put in those fields from that research. I think that's number 1. Number 2, of course, is trying to create an engaging and attractive profile. I think some folks, like, I put in the information, I click submit, I'm done. Well, wait a minute. Have you looked at your results compared to the competition? Have you looked at the images that appear? Are there very descriptive, detailed images that represent what you do best? Are you sort of indirectly prompting your visitors to share really detailed information about their visit so that those words can play into the different phrases that Google ranks you for? And I think most importantly, are you utilizing every available field that's available? Some businesses are like, I'm in a hurry. They'll rush through, get their profile done, and move on. And somebody else who's got a little bit more time on their hands might go through and really be comprehensive in every single field that's available in the Google Business Profile to make it compelling and stand out, and to share value propositions. People really love our candied bacon. You got to come in for breakfast and try our candied bacon. It's famous. Look at our reviews, and they read the reviews and they see all the, comments about candied bacon. And then when somebody's searching for restaurant with candied bacon near me, boom, you're right there. So instead of just broadly attacking the word restaurant, like unfortunately, so many business owners try to do, instead focus on your strengths and make sure that you're sharing content and using words to describe, those areas of strength in all of those different descriptions and product fields and categories and so forth. And then I know before you'd mentioned a bit about focal points, and when we are sitting down with a business and when we're starting to kind of lay out that foundation about what do we really need to do to rank this business, and we've talked about this on previous sessions, those 4 pillars, right? One is my data, my business data accurate everywhere it needs to be, especially with Google My Business. Maybe using the Postal Service, for example, to bounce off how the Postal Service uses your address versus what might already be in Google and vice versa. It's making sure that the page that represents your location, maybe you have one location and you've put some information in the footer of your website around directions and map and hours and holiday hours and things like that. Maybe you have multiple locations and you have a dedicated page that you're using, and you're submitting that page in the Google Business Profile so that the user goes directly to the page around that location and can read information about that location and the differences in the menu of that location, the reviews for that location, etc. The third pillar is going to be around the business data visibility. So as Googlebots crawling through the web, how often are they finding our business data in local directories, into industry directories like restaurant directories and Restaurant G and OpenTable, etc. And the last piece we talked about a little bit earlier was reviews. So what we do when we sit down with our clients and we talk about our maps rankings and our Google Business Profile and its position in the maps results, we focus around those 4 areas: data accuracy, local page optimization, data visibility, and reputation and ratings. And we'll do that as a cadence, if not every month, every couple of weeks, just to make sure that all stakeholders who are involved in the ranking of our location are paying attention to those 4 areas and that we're improving in those 4 areas, either against the previous results or against the competitive landscape, by aggregating all that data about our competition and seeing how the pattern is improving for us. Is our information getting better every month? Is our landing page getting better every month? Are our reviews and ratings and frequency and velocity of ratings improving every month, more so than the competition? So if we focus around those 4 areas every month, you just can continue to see growth and growth and growth.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, those 4 pillars are vital. Ben, do you have anything that you'd like to add on to that?
Well, the first thing I need to say is that I think what you need is a mic drop animation to include in these slides, because Steve just dropped a ton of great knowledge there. And the second thing I think we just learned there is that Steve is adding candied bacon to his lineup of services. So I'm excited to hear that. No, I actually want to take a little bit of a different tact here and talk about, because Steve is 100% correct on everything he said. But what I want to do is I want to pose a question. And the question is that when you are looking for a business on Google Maps, because we all do, right? We're all looking at Google Business Profiles whenever we're doing anything, going out to eat, going out to buy something, maybe looking to see if somebody has curbside delivery, etc. What are you looking for? What do you see when you are going to go somewhere? And what compels you to reach out to somebody? I was looking for, a insurance guy the other day. And, I looked at my behavior, as I'm just kind of going through profiles, and it's like, okay, so I see a profile, it's completely empty. All right, I'm not going to look at that one. I'm going to move on. I see a profile, it's got, 75 reviews. Okay, awesome. Go look at those reviews. I look at the ones that are most recent. Are they positive? Are they negative? Has the owner replied?
Fake.
How have they, right? Are they fake? Of course, you got to do that. But, are they, how is the owner replying? Is the owner being snarky? Are they accepting, criticism? Are they trying to improve their business? So, it's one of the things I like to say is with a Google Business Profile, there's not too many levers that you can actually pull to increase and modify or just game your ranking, right? It's like the content of your posts. It's a myth. posts content is not going to help your ranking. It's great to help conversions. Adding photos weekly, that's going to give you a little bit of an engagement bump, engagement signal bump. So it might help your ranking a little bit, but really at the same time, it's just helping to increase your visibility, also helping increase maybe, the photos that show up when people are doing searches. Everything filled out, again, also probably not going to impact what queries you show up for. But
it affects that user behavior, right?
Exactly. It's all about user behavior. Getting recent reviews. Yes, reviews are a ranking signal to a point. We don't know exactly what that point is, but I think it's somewhere between 10 and 100, something like that. But getting them, is not going to really getting more and more reviews, is, again, it's going to be a conversion signal. So that's what I really want to hit home on is definitely fill out everything that you are given as far as an opportunity goes. A great example of this is we discussed this, I think, a little bit yesterday, is that, for instance, when the opening date field came out, people didn't fill it out. They didn't enter in the data. They didn't even know it was there because it was, they had kind of fired and forgot, basically, in the Google Business Profile. So when it did come out and rolled out, Google gave people about 6 months to fill out the data about when they opened. And those who didn't were shown as being open less than 5 years. Well, this is horrible for a company that's been in business for 30, right? And their competitor had filled it out. So, so that means that basically you should always be keeping an eye on your Google Business Profile. Anyway, in short.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that we're not doing these things to try to manipulate our search rankings. We're doing these things to show our audience that we're open, we're active, and we're a great place to come patronize.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about converting. It's about, if you think about Google's stated mission with maps, right, and just Google Business Profiles, it is to provide basically merchants with a way to convey information to a consumer, and it is a way to help with consumers discover great merchants. That's their business. That's what they want. And so if you keep that in mind, then your Google Business Profile will provide you 90% of your business. Easy.
I think there's a stigma too, and I just got back from an anniversary trip myself, and I was looking at boat charters, and when I don't see any activity, or the last activity was from like a year ago, I'm like, man, Are they even open? Are they that irrelevant that there's just nobody talking about them or engaging with them? So it made me nervous to want to contact them. But then I looked at some profiles where someone was like, a week ago, this charter was amazing. I had a blast. And the charter themselves said, here's some pictures from a recent charter with one of our guests. And you're like, cool, there's activity. They're alive. They're interactive. There's real people there. There's social proof. Yeah,
exactly. It shows that they care. And, if it's one thing that I think annoys me the most personally is when I see a business that I frequent personally myself regularly, and I find that their business profile is unclaimed and that nothing's going on it. I mean, I walk in there and I say, hey, can I talk to the owner or the manager? It's like, you really should fix this. Here's why. And then they do. And, they start updating their hours, and their attributes and all of that. And it's like, it's amazing. And then I come back
and then you hate yourself later because it's packed and now you got to wait in line because you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I have a local online guide that goes through kind of those 4 things we talked about earlier. And I do the same thing. When I go somewhere and it's empty, I'm like, this place is really good. The service is great. The food's amazing. What's going on? So I give them a link to the guide and just do these things, right? And but then I regret it later because I'll come back a month or 2 later and it's like, man, what did I just do? Now I got to wait for a table.
Yep. And one last thing I want to say before we move on, and that's this: I want to give everybody something very actionable that they can do that can help your Google Business Profile and influence ranking. Reviews that people leave for your business will impact ranking. They also get these little chips at the top when you get enough of them that actually says, like, awesome service. In mind, it's like Google SEO, stuff like that. But getting users to put keywords in their reviews is very difficult, because most people don't think about it. And on top of that, you really are not allowed to ask people to do specific things. Like, hey, can you say, can you say that our candied bacon was awesome, please? I didn't have candied bacon yet, Steve. So no, I can't say that. But what you can do is you can give them some leading questions. Be like, hey, would you leave us a review? Tell people about the experience that you had. Where were you? Who serviced you? What did we do for you? And what you felt about our service. And please don't leave this review for us. Leave this for somebody who is going to come and make a decision. Help somebody else. And by doing that, people are much more, they're more apt to leave things that say that put keywords basically into the review. So, I was visiting San Diego. I went to Steve and I went to meet Wiideman, and I got candied bacon, and Steve was just freaking amazing. And the service was awesome. I will definitely be coming here and recommending them forever. That might be the
people
content.
draw blanks sometimes when they're prompted to do anything. My daughter blanks on tests, right? She'll ace everything, and then she'll get the test and be like, yeah, I don't remember anything. So I think when you do that, you're right. You're giving them some tips on what they can write about, and in doing so, they're gonna use the words that you want them to use, because they're gonna have to describe their experience. I love that.
Exactly.
Awesome. And that kind of and this kind of reminds me of when you're developing this online reputation and you're managing your Google business profile and you're responding to reviews. What you're doing is you're establishing trust, but not only trust with people who are looking at your Google business profile, but also with Google. Because I think there's a certain level of trust that Google has to have in your business, that you are who you say you are, and you're located where you say you're located, and you offer what you say you offer. So there's, a lot of that is developing trust with the people looking at your business and Google itself. So moving on to the next question. Let's say a business does all these right things and they have all the components that you guys had just mentioned. Once that's done, what sort of impact can a business expect from their profile? Does having a strong Google business profile really help a local business's online reputation and presence? Does it help, when you were mentioning, Ben, earlier, those conversions, how much of that actually matters when it comes to the Google business profile?
Ben, I'll let you start.
Ben, you can start first.
Okay. So I mean, basically, as you see, the bullet points that are on this slide does kind of say it all, right? Once you've created and filled out your Google business profile, again, there's not a lot of levers to pull, right? So you're not going to update your categories, unless you're an HVAC company. You're not going to update your categories. You're not going to update your business name. Your address is going to stay the same. Usually, your hours may change, as, for instance, Trevor has stated in the Q&A. Your phone number probably also not going to change. Your description probably not going to change. So what is going to change? Again, we talked about reviews, right? Reviews, definitely. Photos, we talked a little bit about photos. So you want to do photos on a regular basis, posts on a regular basis. It's all about helping that consumer make that decision. And just like Steve was saying, when he was looking for something, he was looking for an active profile. But not only is our consumers and customers looking for an active business profile, Google's looking for a business profile. Kind of like what you were just saying, Justin, about trust, right? Trust is a big thing with Google, and it's an invisible factor, kind of like PageRank was back in the day. And so by doing things on your GBP, for instance, like uploading photos, when users view those photos, or if they vote up a question and answer, or vote up a review, for instance, these are things that are called engagement signals. And what we see is that businesses that are constantly paying attention to their Google business profile will see up to 90% of their new business coming from Google business. Another thing to understand here is how Organic plays well and is extremely important, actually, to local. And I guess what I need to do first is just explain, how the local algorithm even works, right? So if you look at this, and this is basically your organic algorithm. So this has, over 300, 400 signals that Google is using, links, copy, title tags, etc. All of that is running into play as far as, your ranking of your website. Well, the local algorithm basically just kind of sits right on top, in a sense, of the organic algorithm. So everything you're doing for SEO from the organic standpoint is going to impact your local ranking. However, whatever you do on your local ranking signals is not going to impact your organic ranking. So you pull the levers that you can with your Google Business Profile, and you make sure you keep on doing and getting those engagement signals, and then everything else that you're going to do is going to be fed by your organic as well. So they just really work together. So and the last thing is the bullet point is helping Google understand your entity. Steve was talking a little bit earlier about making sure that your business data is consistent across the internet. This is very true, especially on more important types of sites like LinkedIn, Better Business Bureau, for instance. Because Google needs to piece all of this information together and then make a determination of who your business is and what you're about. So again, it can provide the consumer exactly what they need.
Yep, I love that. And then there's this pattern effect too. When you think about algorithms, there's still kind of a mindset of SEO is a set it, forget it. Let's just do all the things. Let's do what we need to do, and then let's just move back on to running our business. Well, your competitor's not going to rest on their laurels. They're going to continue chipping away at those 4 pillars every single month because they want to displace you once you have her in that top position. So that's why we meet with our clients on a regular basis, every couple of weeks, once a month, and to really beat each other up to make sure that every month we're improving in all those different areas. And it's not hard to do. And once you've got that routine down, that cadence, it can be a 10-minute call. Let's just go through in 10 minutes and look at these 4 areas. Are we doing better every month? What do we need to do? Sometimes an intern needs to be brought in. Sometimes we need to get the team involved and say, hey team, when you come into the office every day, take Google Maps instead of Apple Maps or something. And when it asks you, are you here? Say, yes, I'm here. And heck, if you get here early, take some pictures and upload them. Why not get the team involved? In that part of things. If you're uncertain about how to get your customers or clients to participate, start with getting the team to participate. And once they get comfortable with it and they see the results from what their contribution has done to build that pattern of behavior, it might be easier to come up with some creative ideas to get your customers involved. So anyway, that's the way I think about search rankings with all the artificial intelligence and knowledge graphs and things that are going on, is I think in terms of patterns. And if every month we're getting better and better and better at the areas and focal points that search engines are paying attention to, then when we look at our line graph over time for all of those different pillars, it's going to show just upward growth every month. And there's no reason why Google or any other search engine would move our rankings down when every month all we're doing is getting better at the areas that are important to them.
Interesting. And before we move into the next section in the Q&A, and also we have gotten quite a few questions in, so thank you all for that. Be sure to keep submitting them. But one of the things, so now that we know what goes into a good Google business profile, what the benefits of having a solid business profile are, let's talk about some of the misconceptions. And as you were talking about earlier, Ben, there were some things that you had mentioned. You're like, you know what, that's not a ranking factor. Like, that's not going to help you rank higher, but it does help with conversions. So I think there might be quite a few different little myths behind Google business profiles.
Correlation versus causation.
Just a couple myths. Yeah, just a few.
Ben, didn't we say last time we're going to get a T-shirt that says, am I an SEO consultant? And on the back it says, it depends.
Yeah, we definitely have to do that, dude.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and dive into those myths right now. And Ben, you can go ahead and get that started.
Yeah. So actually on our blog on Steady Demand, I have a running list of these myths and more explanations and photos and all sorts of stuff and some memes. but I keep it up to date. So the big thing here is this. Again, we said there's not many levers inside of Google Business Profile that you can use to influence your ranking. Really quickly, what are those levers? The name of your business, the link to the URL that you are pointing to for your website. Sometimes the homepage is better. Sometimes your landing page is better. Basically, the reviews that you're getting, the contents of those reviews, and basically your categories, your primary category being the most important, but your 9 possible subcategories are also very important. But those are the things that are going to impact ranking. Everything else doesn't care. Google doesn't care, period. They don't take it into account. I can't say that anymore. When I am looking at a Google Business Profile and I see people sticking all of these keywords into the labels area of Google Business, I have to scream, because it's like, labels are there for you to organize your Google Business Profiles together. That's what they're there for. They're not to help ranking, or they're not using AdWords. So they put HVAC in San Diego and, in their store code. Also, that's not what store codes are for. So, or they put I've once seen somebody max out the number of characters in their description. They put all these keywords, or I've seen owner replies to reviews with literally hundreds of keywords. It's astounding. So what people will do to try and rank better.
Desperation, man. Yeah.
It's really bad desperation. So let's go over some myths, okay? Because there's a lot of people out there that talk about these things, and they profess that it's like, oh, we've done case studies. One, of this guy, and he ranked because of this, because we weren't doing anything else. Sure, you weren't. The fact is that none of these things actually work. There are case studies about these things from a lot of different professionals in the industry, but let's just go over them. The first one is EXIF, EXIF data, and geocoding of basically of images. And this is where people say, well, if I put in my location data and I put in keywords into these hidden fields inside of images, and I put in the coordinates of my location, it's going to help me rank.
It's all going to get stripped out on rendering.
Exactly. It gets stripped out on upload. Google doesn't need the data. They've got other data already. So yeah, they take the, so, again, it just doesn't work. Paying for ads. I hear this one all the time, especially when people are suspended, but they're like, I spend X amount of dollars in Google ads. Well, how come I'm not ranking well? Well, because guess what? Google departments don't talk to each other. That's a fact.
But ads can help your organic traffic. We did this. We did a pretty big, like $70,000 spend a few weeks ago with an attorney, and his organic traffic went up because people went back and searched for him. It was kind of a first click, last click sort of thing. Like paid, built the awareness, and organic brought them back. But as soon as those ads stopped, that organic traffic went right back to normal. So,
but that's an engagement signal, right?
Yep.
So.
There was no change in rankings of any of the pages. It's just more people were searching for the brand after having clicked the ad the first time.
Yep. So again, back to conversions.
Yep.
So adding keywords to everything I can in GBP, right? Like we were just talking about. Doesn't help. Don't do it. It makes you look silly. Review
there's
responses.
actually guidelines on it too, isn't there, Ben? In the Google Webmaster Guidelines, there's like, don't put your location in certain things, and you don't need your location since we already have your location.
In your business name.
Shove that. Yeah.
In your business name, the guidelines state you should make it as it is in the real world. So unless your business name is, Candy Bacon Near Me, you probably shouldn't use that as your business name. Justin, I'm just saying we need a candied bacon feature for Birdeye. Yeah, all right.
Yes. I'll put that in the word with our product team.
We have put in a feature request, please. Okay. So, but adding keywords to labels, we talked about how silly that is, right? Adding call tracking history. Oh yeah, let's do that. That's going to help ranking because Google gave us a new toy. The toy is broken, by the way. Don't enable it. You could be sending your competitors phone calls. Using messages or quotes. Again, conversion factor, not ranking factor. However, replying to messages and having what's called a high MRR, which is merchant response rate, actually does have a small ranking boost. It's really, really, really tiny. But basically just reply to your messages fast. It's good for consumers anyway. And adding products, via the merchant center. This can actually cut up a little bit. It's in their documentation. It says it'll actually help if you add real-time products to your Google Business Profile. It kind of makes sense, right?
And you put more often because there's more products for your listing to appear for. So it makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, so that's kind of the running list of local search myths, at least as far as Google Business Profiles go. What you got, Steve?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's so many silly things that businesses will do. And the one thing that drives me the most crazy is when a business hires 6 different agencies to create 6 different websites for their business, and 6 different Google My Business profiles, because they're trying to like dominate the web. And so, they'll hire all these different companies and services, and some of them are the $200 a month conveyor belts, local SEO, whatever, right? And they're thinking, hey, if I do this, I'm going to have 6 different listings, 6 different web pages, and I'm just going to own the first page of Google. Well, you've got one business name, one phone number, unless, again, you're creating all sorts of new addresses and names and things that generally renting an office for every single one of those businesses. It never works. In fact, it creates frustration and confusion. The agencies are like, hey, you need to get rid of this duplicate profile. It's hurting our ability to show Google that we're the right entity, the right domain for your entity. And it's really frustrating. And it creates a big mess on the internet. It pisses the local competitors off. They flag you all the time because you're doing shady stuff. The quote I always love to use is Jim Rohn's quote, that he wrote years ago. And he said, you don't have to do extraordinary things to be successful. You only have to do ordinary things extraordinarily well. So the one myth I think that needs to be busted right away is that you need to have, duplication or more than one website and Google Business Profile to succeed. And I think that's completely false. Have one, but be aware of the different types of results that exist in Google now. It's not just a blue link and black text. You can have images that you do optimize on your webpage that show up in an image carousel. You can create videos to describe the different products, services, and menu items that you have, and optimize those videos to show up in the video carousel. You can create FAQs on your pages that that represent the questions that appear in the people also ask section. You can use the related searches at the bottom of the results to come up with additional copy that you can put on your website to appear for. So you can appear more prominently in all the different universal search results within a web search beyond just your map listing and your blue link and black text listing. So I think if you're thinking more strategically about your local SEO, think about all the different ways that you can get into the search results and start creating content to address those different things, but focus on one brand, one Google Business Profile, and every month make it better. One local page, for each location, and every month make it better. Study the competitors, pick up alerts. So when your competitors change something, you can be aware of it. Pick up alerts when your competitors get a new citation or business listing somewhere that you can get your listing there. Pick up alerts so that if your competitors earn some new links to their website, that you can get those links. So I think those are the things that you can do to do ordinary things extraordinarily well without trying to game search results. And there's some weird things out there too that I've seen some of our peers do. You've seen this as well. I don't want to call anybody out, but there's some things where they've got wall racks of cell phones and they're creating VPNs and weird things to try to influence search behavior signals and make Google think that there's hundreds of people that are searching for a business, driving there and interacting with it. And while that's a really interesting short-term way to spike your rankings, what happens when the power goes out and suddenly that pattern stops? From an artificial intelligence standpoint, what do you think the algorithms think of that sudden change in behavior? I think there's some serious long-term problems that could come with trying to do anything that's manipulative of search results. So I would stay away from anything that feels shady.
Absolutely. Google is pretty darn good at figuring this stuff out. They've had quite a few years to see how they can be scammed.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway,
Awesome.
so those are the myths that I see a lot more often than I'd like to, unfortunately.
Well, make sure that you paid attention to that, and you can always go back and view this recording afterwards. But there is some awesome insight that Ben and Steve just dropped on us, some big knowledge. So be sure to make sure to go back and you got all that covered. And now we're about to dive into Q&A, but I want to do a quick run on Birdeye and its partnership with Google's API. If your business with multiple locations, maybe you've got 2 or 100 or 1,000, it can be really difficult to manage all of those business profiles as well as all the other listings on different websites all across the internet, and making sure that all the information is correct, updated, and accurate. One of our clients is like an oil change company, and they've got over 100 locations. And they have tried to manage their over 100 different Google business profiles, and it was an absolute mess. And trying to make sure the information is correct and the overall keeping them up to date and getting reviews and responding to reviews and everything that goes into what we just talked about into managing one Google business profile, they had to do for over 100. And so one of the things so obviously that's something that's very difficult to do, especially if you're a team of one, which is what this company was. And they, over the past 2.5 years, they have brought in over 16,000 reviews just in Google. But that's because they had Birdeye, which allows them to automatically send out requests for the reviews to every customer, which is a simple text with the URL that allows them to 2 clicks and they've left a review. And because of that API partnership with Google, you can manage all of your profiles for all of those locations, for all of those reviews, for everything that you need, including messages coming in from Google, all in one dashboard with Birdeye. And this helps make sure that all of your information is correct and accurate and consistent, with whether it's changing hours. You have to do that for all of them if that's what the case is. And it makes managing your reviews easy because you can have automated responses based on the star rating. So if you have a 5-star review, and it's out of 1,000 that you get because you're getting a lot of reviews, you can have automated responses. Although we do encourage personalized messages, that carries a little bit more weight when people are reading that and they can see that you took the time to write out a response to them. But because of Birdeye, this oil change company was only needing one person to manage the over 16,000 reviews that they brought in over the past couple of years, because they can just manage it from the Birdeye dashboard. And it just made life a lot easier, and it allowed them to bring in more reviews because they had automated requests going out. So they didn't have to try to train every single employee who interacts with a customer to try to find the right moment in time to ask them for a review, because that's always a little weird and it can be a bit scary depending on the situation. And there's always crazy stuff going on. So having requests be automated takes all of that away from like the responsibility of the employees, and it just does it. And that helps you bring in so many more reviews, especially from your happy customers, because I'm sure we all know upset and angry customers seem to be more motivated to leave reviews. So you have to find a way to get your happy customers to do that. All right. So now that we've got that out of the way, we can finally jump into the Q&A, and we've got a ton of questions. And the first one that I'd like to ask you guys is, my business services seniors, and we have a hard time getting Google reviews. Any tricks or tips to make those reviews easier to get? Well, as I was just saying, an automated request makes things a lot easier. You don't have to try to find that right moment when they're trying to walk out the door or whatever to ask them for a review. Like, oh, by the way, like, let me get a review. You don't have to do that. It's very simple. You leave a text, they click it, they click on Google, they leave the review. It takes 2 minutes. It just makes life easier, and it allows them to go on with their day and not have to stop and think about, or if you're asking them in person, you have to be like, well, you need to log into Google and then go to our business and then go to the review section and then click on that and then write the review and then click submit, and then we'll get it. With Birdeye automated
postcard might work with that audience too, Justin. Honestly, a postcard with some of the, if you're talking about seniors, is what it sounded like. You could do something as simple as a postcard. Hey, we really appreciate your business and we look forward to having you back. We know, it's not always the easiest thing to do, but we would love it if you went to the site and just shared your feedback with us. Sometimes a little old school, never hurt anything. And I don't know how much a stamp costs these days for a postcard, but that might be something that you do when that particular audience doesn't really look at or use text messages.
There's something else that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to gathering reviews and increasing the success of gathering reviews. Mm-hmm. Most people say that, okay, let's go ahead and at the end of the service that you've provided, that's where you ask for the review, right? That's your first entry point. I would argue that your first entry point needs to be during and even before you provide the service. An example, like when we help people out with getting reinstated on Google, right? It's a very emotional time. And the reviews that people leave for us are actually for our customers. They're not for us, right? So what we do is we say, hey, when you're done, if you're feeling however you're feeling, please read our reviews, and that'll help you feel better. So that's entry point number one, right? That's putting a seed into somebody's mind to saying reviews are important, by the way. They're important to other people. If you're a good person, you'll leave a review. Just kidding. So, but then, after, like literally during the actual service, we'll talk about that and be like, check out and make sure you do read the reviews no matter how you're feeling. And then afterwards, of course, when we're done, we say, hey, could you tell people about your experience? And then, of course, follow that up with an email, which is like where Birdeye, for instance, comes in. And you could do a text, QR codes, whatever you want at that point, a handout like Steve is saying, right? But during service, I guess is what the point that I'm trying to bring up is try to ask during the time of service. It'll just put another seed in somebody's mind, and it'll increase the amount of reviews that you might be able to get.
I went to a bakery once, and it was kind of funny. I should have taken a picture of it, but they gave us a little box to go, and I didn't order anything. Oh, it's just a thank you for coming in. They're kind of a new place, and they're trying to get their name out there. And I open up the box, and it says, "We love reviews" on a cupcake, right? And so, nice. And it was cool because it was just like it wasn't saying leave us a review. It's like we love reviews, and you took it home because you're already full, right? And you're like, okay, so I'm gonna go home and have this cupcake. And then you're like, you know what? I ate the cupcake. I kind of feel like I should probably leave them a review. And by the way, it was a freaking amazing cupcake. So it worked, But sometimes you just got to get really creative because your audiences are going to be so different, and some of them aren't going to be very technical at all. So it's understanding that making it as simple as possible. I love the text idea. If they do have a cell phone and get text messages, they just click a link and hit a star, and if they want to leave feedback, great. If you have an icon in that form where they can use the Google Voice API, even and talk in their voice to text answer, so they don't have to try to type on a small keyboard, that could help as well. So that way you leave the star, and then it says leave a review. Click here to use your voice. Use your voice. Blah 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 blah. They see the text show up, and then they click submit. Yeah, there'll be some typos in it. That's okay. It's still able to leave a review without having to fiddle around with a mobile keyboard. Mm-hmm. So just something to think about.
Awesome. So we've got another question, and this was one of our earlier ones from Molly. Our bank has mortgage loan officers with their own Google business listings. We would still be able to capture search. We would still like to be able to capture searches for loan officers who leave the bank and talk to those people who may need a lender. Currently, we mark the loan officer as closed, but we're not sure that's the best approach. Do you have suggestions for how to still capture searches for former loan officers?
That's a big
okay.
question.
So this one's actually a little bit complex in how it functions. First of all, the loan officer owns the Google business profile, so they actually should be able to take that with them. And if they ever go to Google, Google will side with the loan officer. That's number one. Number two, relational information. Relational data. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Basically, Google does understand that loan officer works for you. When they leave, however, they start to make new data, basically new citations, things like that, and articles, etc., that start to associate them with another firm, basically. So what you could do is you could have a link, make sure that you have a LinkedIn profile for them if they, not theirs, but, maybe create a secondary one underneath of your company. Make sure that their information as being a past loan officer maybe is on your website. But basically, at the end of the day, Google wants to be able to surface that person's information for where they actually are. So you're not going to have a ton of control over it, basically. Yeah. What do you think, Steve?
I think I would address it from an organic standpoint, less than a Google Maps. I think if there was someone who had an influence on our company and our customers, and we featured them somewhere on the site, former team member with us from this year to this year, and unless they ask you to take it down, right, and then you have to take it down. But if they are like, hey, cool, they're mentioning me on the old company I used to work for, that's going to help me get a better job because now I look really good on their website. So make them look amazing on this page. Optimize the page like you would your LinkedIn so that organically you show up for their name. And if they're okay with it, because that it showcases where they'd worked and how amazing they were, I doubt they'd want you to take it down. When they do a Google search for their own name and they see your listing show up right beneath their LinkedIn or somewhere else, they might call up and say, hey, I don't want this site to appear. Can you take it down? But I've never heard of that happening. So I think you're okay as long as the employee's good with it and you've got them signing something that says, hey, when you're with us and when you leave, we're allowed to say that you worked for us. Then great. As long as you have their approval on it, I say go for it, because it's not hard to create a about person biography page, put their name in the title tag and some call to action and value proposition, mention their name in the meta description, use the name in the H1 tag and what their title was in the H1 tag or main heading tag, have a picture or two from when they worked there with their name badge and the the company logo on it. I think it's a cool opportunity to take advantage of somebody's name as long as you're adding value to them in exchange for you being able to use their name.
Interesting. So moving on, also, I know we're nearing the top of the hour. Ben and Steve, do you guys have any extra time? Maybe a couple extra minutes to get to some of these questions?
Yeah,
awesome.
Of course.
Okay,
let's do it. We got questions. Let's answer them.
Awesome. So if you guys want to stay in and listen in, we'll be here for a few extra minutes answering these questions because we want to make sure we can get as much value over to you guys. So the next one, and this is kind of combo a couple of questions and also touch on a topic that Ben, you mentioned yesterday and a little bit today. What is a business's defense against fake reviews? What are listing sites doing to help businesses combat fake reviews? And this is, this can relate to a competitor trying to change information on your profile, or maybe even the review scams that you were talking about. Just I think, what can you do against review scams and competitors attacking you?
So, okay. Okay. So basically, what can you do about reviews, or what are platforms doing first, right? Yelp is really good actually at detecting fake reviews and review attacks, and they will even say that this merchant has fake reviews, for instance. They also remove reviews at a pretty good rate. Google, however, has what I consider the review economy. They need to have reviews. It's user-generated content, makes them look good, and it's something that they feel users need. But they're horrible. They're really, really horrible at removing reviews and figuring out what is real and what's not. And maybe we have to blame it on AI, garbage data in, garbage data out, right? The machine learning is basically being taught incorrectly, I think, is really what it comes down to. So what can you do about it? So let's say you get a string of fake reviews, or let's say you get this negative 1-star review with no content, and you're like, oh, this customer's not in my database. First of all, Google doesn't care that the customer's not in your database. They're not going to look in your database. So don't think about that. The process basically goes that you have to flag the review, wait 72 hours, up to 72 hours to get a reply. Usually get one really quickly. And then basically if it has not been removed, then you can reach out to support, ask them to remove it. If they don't remove it, then you can come to the community and post your case ID there. And then somebody like myself, like a product expert, can go ahead and ask Google to take another look at it. That's basically the process. And Google has to see a pattern. So they have to see a pattern. So if you're saved for every positive review you get, you're getting 2 negative reviews. Okay, that's a pattern. Or let's say, you're getting reviews from all over the world. That's a pattern. Let's say, you're getting, 50 one-star reviews in 5 minutes. That's a pattern. These are things that Google can look at. There's a lot of other things that they look at too, but that's the primary thing that they're going to look at. They also look at the user accounts, which are associated with it too. Do you want me to segue into just some common stuff that's happening with Google, like the news piece?
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
Okay. So, and right now, currently, there's actually quite a few issues with reviews when it comes to Google Business Profiles. The first one is more recent, and this has to do with basically scammers who are out there, and they are extorting businesses, primarily restaurants, but I think they've started fanning out. But yeah, it was New York and San Jose, I think, is where it started, if I remember correctly. And what they're doing is they'll leave a couple one-star reviews, and then they'll send a message to the business. The message basically states that that they are from India and that they need to feed their family, and they're so sorry that they're leaving you a negative review. They really are so sorry. As a matter of fact, they lead with that. So they're sorry that they left you a negative review. They have to feed their family. So $75 gift card would go a long way. $50 will feed their family for a week. And by the way, if you don't do this, they will continue to leave you a one-star review every single day. So what can you do about it? The only thing that you can do about it is take a screenshot, basically, of the messaging that you've gotten, and then come out and with this attack, I would definitely come to the Google Business Profile community immediately. Give us your dashboard URL, the name of your business, and that screenshot, and then we'll go ahead and we can escalate that up, because Google does have mechanisms to fight this right now. So just a PSA. You got troubles? Come to the community. We will definitely help you. And feel free to hit me up on Twitter, by the way, and I will make sure I give it my 100% attention and send it over to Google. The other things that are currently happening, and I think this is going to answer a couple of the questions that we have in chat, and that is we have where existing reviews that you have go missing from your Google Business Profile. You wake up in the morning, you had 100 last night, you got 30 today. This is happening. This is reality. Google's filter is turned up high on review filtering, and so a lot of reviews are missing. The funny part is a lot of these reviews that are going missing are actually fake reviews. So they're doing, actually, from a data standpoint, they see that they're doing a good job. But as with everything, some people do get caught in the crossfires when Google turns things on. So again, this is a situation where if you have this happening to yourself, then you need to come to the community and raise it up there and provide us with a proof of the reviews that you're missing in the form of screenshots.
Yeah, back up your reviews. I love that.
Yeah. Yes. You've heard me say that right before.
Many
times. When you get reviews, do screenshots. Get backups of those reviews. And the last one is that, well, there's two more. This one's really, really, really annoying. And is when you create a new Google Business Profile, there is a time period that's in there right now where you cannot get reviews. Super frustrating, because that's the first thing that you want to do. I brought it up to Google. They're aware. They're working on it. And the last one is kind of like that one. And that is where users will leave you a review. However, it will not show up on your profile, and you don't get a notification. These also are horrible to deal with. So, but again, the filter is kind of acting up, so it's happening. So what you need to do is, and we actually have a service called Review Retrieval that we offer that's basically for this. But you basically need to make sure you do have screenshots of those reviews from your customer. Have them send it to you, and then we can see if we can get it retrieved. That's all we got.
Ben, it's interesting how Google will do verified listings for local service ads. Like they'll literally go through this whole screening process. You would think that to have a cleaner results and a better community, that they do user authentication. I know there's a local guide program, which is great, and I do feel like the local guide ratings and reviews give people a little bit more, social signals to want to stay on that particular listing as opposed to go back and choose a competitor. But I feel like they could do more. I feel like if a user feels comfortable with authenticating, that you could do something now with, you go to the airport and they've got Clear, Facebook has facial recognition. Why not have something where, look, if you want to leave a genuine review, hey, I'm at such and such restaurant right now, and I just wanted to say I had a great experience. I'm posting this. Boom, they post it. They got the near field communication to validate that they're on location at whatever that place is. They've got a video and the facial recognition that proves that it's them. You would think that Google would say, look, if you want to, have authenticated reviews, then you can have that option, and users can actually do real video, real picture, on location, NFC verified, authenticated reviews. That way, those could be weighted, and those that are just text reviews that somebody, tried to use a VPN or something to do to leave a review won't count as much, or count toward the total score. Maybe it'll be its own little category of other reviews, right? Authenticated reviews and other reviews, and only show the aggregate authenticated reviews, maybe a hybrid of local guide and video, whatever. I think there's a ton of opportunity for Google to do that. I know privacy is getting bigger and bigger and more important, but I think as a digital community, everyone already knows where we're at. GPS, they already see us checking in and posting pictures of things at places that verify where we are. So if you're already comfortable doing that and you're already sharing that kind of information, opt in to be an authenticated reviewer and have that benefit the businesses that you patronize, or not benefit if they're a horrible business. I think that's where we need to go, in isolating, authenticated and non-authenticated, and letting the AI, do the math to figure it out, through facial recognition, near field communication, and so forth. But maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm thinking 10 years ahead. Who knows?
Well, I'll say this then, and you can, everybody in the audience, you can say you've heard this first on Birdeye. I love the idea of having separated authenticated reviews and local guide reviews. They do this with local service ads right now, right? You have verified reviews, and then you have your standard Google reviews. Mm-hmm. So they have the mechanism to do it, right? Potentially. I know I've brought up with Google before that they should have a uniquely tokened URL, for instance, that is just for that user, just for that experience, and to leave a review using that. However, I'm going to bring that up to them, Steve, actually, and I'm going to drop your name too, by the way, for the fun of it. My buddy Steve over here just brought up an amazing idea. But seriously, you heard it here first. So when you see this roll out in the next year or two, I think you need to send Steve some candied bacon.
Oh man, I'm gonna be so hungry after this webinar.
I'm getting there. So we are going a little long, but there's just a couple more questions that people asked earlier in the webinar, and they've been patiently waiting. So I want to get to those before we jump off. And the first one is, you mentioned it earlier, Ben, from Trevor. The hours of my business are subject to change on any day or every day based on the weather. It can take up to 3 days for Google to apply updates to hours. Would you recommend still having your hours on your Google business profile in this situation?
So if you're saying that you're updating the hours and it's taking days to update, then that means you're updating your Google business profile in the wrong way. You're doing it through a suggested edit. You're not doing it through the control panel. So what I would do is use the Google Business Profile Manager at business.google.com, or go into search, be logged in with the account that actually where the Google account where the business profile resides, and update the hours. Updating hours does not take 3 days usually, unless there's something wrong. So it should take like 45 seconds. So I would do that. Also make sure that if you want to ensure that speed, make sure you update your website first and then update your Google business profile.
Awesome. And so we've got another question from Jacob, and it's for a smaller financial institution, does that mean we should not have the location for each of our branches' individual profiles? And I think this relates to one of the slides we were talking about. Let's see. The question was it 42. So I can't remember if it was on this slide or the myths.
We were talking about myths. Yeah.
Yes. So on the myths for the location. Oh, that's right. Because you were like, if your name isn't, Kenny Bacon near me.
No, actually, I think this is in response to something that Steve said about focusing on one location versus multiple.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think there's two perspectives, right? If you have multiple locations, then and they're in the same city on the same street, right? It can get kind of weird, and you can differentiate them. I think slightly by saying South Beach Boulevard versus North Beach Boulevard, or you can specify the business name a little bit differently. I think they've got ways to do that where you don't get flagged. That way people know, hey, am I going to the Home Depot that's on North Harbor or South Harbor? Because the address doesn't really specify. So there's that part of it. So if you do have multiple locations, of course, you want to make sure you have a profile for each location and a local page for each location. I think that's an amazing idea. But if you're using the same phone number for all locations, that's problematic. And I would definitely make sure each location has its own name, address, and phone number unique to that location. And avoid, virtual offices if you can. It's to me, it causes two problems, right? One is you could get flagged, and that kind of creates a permanent little ding on your profile. Two is, if somebody shows up to that virtual office, they're gonna be pissed because nobody's there, and then they're gonna report you, and it's gonna, work against you. So I'm not sure if that answered the question, but I would definitely make sure you have a different profile for every physical location that you have.
Yeah. I'm just going to echo what Steve said, is Google wants one location to have one Google Business Profile. So absolutely, if you have physical locations, branches, yeah, definitely put up a Google Business Profile. It's good for you. It's good for the consumer. But like Steve is saying, in the case of like a plumber, right? It's like you're a service business. You have one physical location, your home usually. You're not going to set up, don't go and set up like 30 new listings just because you want to rank. And also, not to mention, it kills your review strategy. One location should get one review. If you have, 5, 6 locations for your one business, now all of a sudden you have to get people to leave reviews all over 6 places. Doesn't make any sense.
So I would attack it with organic though. Instead of maps, I would do, if you actually have customers who are in a given city where you don't have a physical address, but you do service in that city, create a page for that city and say, hey, I'm a financial advisor serving Anaheim, even though you're based in Buena Park, right? So you say financial service provider in Anaheim, and then have curate some of your feedback and reviews, maybe even do some video reviews with some of your customers who are in Anaheim, show a picture of, perhaps meeting with a client or customer in Anaheim, address some of the tax and financial things that are different about Anaheim than Buena Park. Create some really good hyper-local content about that location and how long you've been serving customers in that location based on your database of customers who reside in that area. Serving 23 customers in the Anaheim area since 1975 or whatever. But you can do that so that way in the search results, you won't be in that 3-pack, right? If someone's performing a search, they're going to show real physical Anaheim locations, but you can still show up in the organic results below the map pack by having a dedicated page for that city and maybe some sub pages for each service that you offer. Maybe you have a sub page that's Anaheim residential taxes or something, and another one that's Anaheim business corporate tax, another one that's Anaheim. So you create all those sub pages. Again, as long as you actually serve those areas and you have customers in those areas, try it. Just don't take that same content and duplicate it across every single location because it's very redundant. You'll get a lot of those filtered out. Google will see them as being too similar. Try to make them as I mentioned, hyper local, as you possibly can with real customers and real content from that city. We had an attorney that did that, and he dominated for what was it? Personal injury, truck accident lawyer, car accident lawyer, and wrongful death attorney in some 70 different cities in the state that he served by creating all of those hyperlocal pages, all custom written. It took over 1.5 years to do, but now he's like #1 in every single city for each of those different terms. In the organic, in the map packs, he's still dominating where he has a physical address and crushing it. But for those that he doesn't have a physical address, he's addressing it with organic pages on the website.
Awesome. And so we've got a couple of questions. Thank you so much, Ben and Steve, for staying on long and helping with these questions. And thank you to everyone who's tuning in and still on. We've got so many great questions, and that's kind of exactly what we wanted. So we've got 2 more questions, and they are from Jerome and Ali. And the first one will be from Ali, and it says, our business averaged 30 reviews per month our business averaged 30 reviews per month last year. We received none from October through July. We changed our primary category to be college rather than private college in June, and now we have already exceeded our 30 review average. Nothing changed except the private in the category. Is there a reason behind this?
That's a Ben one.
Yeah. So the thing is that college cannot get reviews. Private school or private college can. It works just the same way with high schools, etc. So it's just a restricted category is what it's considered. It's very sensitive when it comes to reviews.
Makes sense. Awesome. And so that's why our last question for the evening or for the afternoon, it's been a while. We are a small, less than 150 door property management company in Denver. We're starting from scratch to build a business profile and social media presence. Where do I start? And so this could be an open-ended one, but I think maybe just a couple of first steps, like when you're talking about establishing your online presence, might be what we're looking for here.
You heard what I said earlier about doing your research on the top ranking pages. Look at those different services that you offer. Perform a search in Google Maps and reverse engineer all of the fields that the competition have. What categories are they using? How many average reviews do you see them get? Maybe monitor their reviews for a month or 2 to see what their average is and what the velocity looks like. Are they using posts? Do they have frequently asked questions? Are they sort of controlling those frequently asked questions by having some of their favorite customers ask them and having other customers upvote them? Take a look at what the competition is doing and then create a game plan that includes an aggregate of all the information that you garnered from doing that research. That way you're not having to reinvent the wheel. These pages already rank well, and all you're starting with is getting into the same data that they have and how they've addressed it, and then start to look at creative ways to make yours better.
Awesome. Well, that is all. We've definitely gone past all the time that we have today, but that's also all the questions we've received today. Thank you so much, Ben and Steve, for taking the time to meet with us and provide your expertise. I hope everybody here got some value and some tips and some things that they can take back with them to help them improve their online presence and their online reputation. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys soon. I think we should be looking for another discussion here in the next few months. Steve, I will talk to you next month for our first episode of the Reviews to Revenue Masterclass. I think we actually have a call about that later this week, so I'll fill you in more on what we're going to be talking about. But also, if you're still here and you're still tuning in, make sure to click the link to go register for that webinar. It's going to be a really, really awesome discussion with a full panel of people, and it's going to be really good. So with that being said, thank you everyone for joining. Oh, also, be sure to go connect with Ben and Steve on LinkedIn. Connect with them, follow them. They post some great stuff, and make sure that you're up to date on what they're doing. I think, Ben, you said Twitter is where the
Twitter's where it's at.
That's where it's at. Yeah. Okay.
Share a lot of news and all sorts of stuff there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. In the live stream, you mentioned that the best place to kind of keep up to date with what's going on with the Google updates is Twitter. That's where all like the big brains are when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, that's where all the SEO peeps, local SEO peeps. All right. Yep.
Awesome. Well, if anyone in the audience is interested in Birdeye and you'd like to learn more, please email us at events@birdeye.com. I look forward to talking to you guys soon. And with that being said, thank you. We'll talk to you guys later on.
Thanks, Dustin.
Nice hanging with you, man.
Absolutely, Steve. Dude, anytime.